So, I would like to talk about my favorite fictional detectives, but more than that, more specifically, my favorite fictional quote unquote world's greatest detectives. I think you have an idea what I mean. It is quite the common trope, with its modern popularity tracing back to none other than Edgar Allan Poe's character of the Chevalier Auguste Dupin, one of the biggest egos in detective fiction, in my honest opinion, though he almost directly influenced the creation of Conan Doyle's world famous Sherlock Holmes, among other detectives, great and small. Yeah, so Dupin, he first appears in Murders in the Rue Morgue, and is a really interesting character because he is such a self-absorbed, almost crazy individual. He doesn't seem to have half as strong a moral compass as those characters who come later. He is a genius, to be sure, but his motives change very frequently based on the circumstances he finds himself in. He solves murders based on his enjoyment of doing so. He's fond of riddles and conundrums, though he's not above solving crimes for monetary gain as well, should he desire it. Despite being a detective, he is actually quite chaotic in that regard, and it makes him a very fascinating contrast to Sherlock Holmes, right? Sherlock is a flawed person, yes, a drug addict and somewhat egotistical, I suppose, but I don't think it's particularly controversial to say he has a much stronger moral compass than Dupin. Sherlock is wise, and he speaks often of his craft, and he almost seems to delight in trying to educate Watson and the reader in how to think like he does, and how to observe things for themselves. If Dupin is lawful neutral on a good day, perhaps even true neutral, then Sherlock is lawful good. He works with Scotland Yard on a regular basis, as well as kings and prime ministers. He's obsessed with the truth of things, with law and order. His mortal enemy is Professor Moriarty, who is a magnificent bastard if ever there was one, a hard lawful evil, a spider at the center of a carefully constructed web of secrets and lies and manipulations. And that's one thing. Sherlock is great, and he's got a great rogues gallery to support him, as let alone the allies, the impossibly sympathetic Watson, who I can't help but think deserves a pay raise after all the crap he's been through. Uh, Sherlock has great adventures, and his stories afford such wondrous room for growth uh, and adventure. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love a good Sherlock pastiche, right? That which has grown from the original works. The video games were pretty good. Enola Holmes, I liked the first one. Uh, and anything to do with Irene Adler or Mycroft, Sherlock's smarter brother, I'm just automatically into. Uh, I'm not going to go into the whole thing about the Benedict Cumberbatch show because I know it's a complicated issue, but I like Cumberbatch and think that he did a great job playing the character he was given. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Uh, and okay, so my favorite of the world's greatest detectives, I'm going to get to now. It is not Batman, because I don't think he counts. And by God, I was this close to saying Patrick Jane from The Mentalist, because he's a brilliant, chaotic good magician, basically. Uh, but instead, I'm going to go with Agatha Christie's quirky Belgian detective, Hercule Poirot. Um, in all honesty, I haven't had near as long a relationship with Poirot as I have Sherlock Holmes, for instance. My first experience with Poirot was not actually in the stories in which he appears, but in a stage adaptation of Murder on the Orient Express, which I saw like a few months ago. Uh, the actor I thought did a great job playing the kind of quirky detective, and that's really what first got me into the character. And then I went and watched the movie starring Kenneth Branagh, whose performance I just adored. I don't know what it is, but I just fell in love with the character from that moment on. This very meticulous, order obsessed detective with his absurd mustache. He strikes me in many ways as kind of more down to earth than Sherlock Holmes, and much more human than Dupin. Poirot has so many very minor, kind of petty quirks and flaws that I very much enjoy. His upset stomach and his poor grasp of the English language, his little obsessive qualities that very much makes him pop as a character. Uh, and after the incredible movie A Haunting in Venice, I'm still not over the news that Poirot is kind of getting shelved for a while, at least on the big screen. That's a shame because it would get more people interested in the character. The few video games there are don't seem half as interesting as the Sherlock Holmes ones, but that might just be me. But Poirot is just so fascinating to me. It kind of breaks my heart that his own creator, Agatha Christie, hated him so much. She despised him, and in truly Arthur Conan Doyle tradition, she was forced to write about this great detective, even though she didn't really want to, just like Doyle with Sherlock. It's a shame because I like the funny little Belgian detective and his little gray cells. But that's just me. Who's your favorite detective? Let me know in the comments below. And if you agree or disagree with me, while you're at it, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit the bell while you're at it so you always know when I have a new video. Yeah, I like talking about books and games and shows and pretty much anything to do with writing or fiction in general. So, yeah, I will see you around. Until then, bye.